Following the light of the sun, we left the old world, said Christopher Columbus. With Malta at the helm, Europe's trade winds have caught the sails of a new generation. Europe has charted a new route to a new world, and Europe's maritime policy is now pursuing the bright horizon of a blue economy. Blue growth is Europe's long-term strategy to support sustainable growth in the marine and maritime sectors. The Maltese Presidency has presented the seas as drivers for the European economy and a reservoir of potential innovation and growth.
Look at the sea and what you can attain from the sea, sustainably. I mean, blue economy has been with us for centuries. I mean, it's the link between, especially for Malta as an island member state, the blue economy is our lifeline. But now there are more opportunities from the sea, and obviously the more challenges this brings in terms of the sustainable use of our oceans.
El futuro pasa por la economía circular, la economía azul, y es una gran oportunidad para crear unos nuevos empleos, sobre todo empleos cualificados, empleos sostenibles, no solamente medioambientalmente, también socialmente.
As part of Europe's 2020 strategy, Malta pursues smart, sustainable and inclusive growth. The blue economy represents about 5.4 million jobs and generates a gross added value of almost 500 billion euros a year.
We are one of the #1 economies regarding the oceans and the blue growth. There are huge opportunities on this sector. Why? Because it's transversal. So we are speaking about sustainable tourism, sustainable fisheries. We can speak about aquaculture. So in all of these sectors, you can create new jobs.
The blue economy extends beyond the sea and into the shore. Because if you're talking about maritime transport, for example, there are a number of ancillary services attached to it. So it is a bit difficult to frame it, what is the blue economy. It's important that when it comes to policy development, leave it as wide as possible so that you can attain as much as possible.
With 40% of the EU population living in coastal regions, blue growth can have an immediate, tangible impact on many EU citizens, and coastal regions often generate higher GDP per inhabitant than non-coastal regions. Blue growth clearly offers big opportunities to businesses, including SMEs, but is there a risk of a downside as the sea's natural resources are exploited?
Our oceans, our seas are in a very bad state, and we know that this is our main buffer against climate change, for example, and of course it's also offering millions of people their main source of protein.
We are all linked by the oceans, and it's still one of the areas where we still have the capacity to keep ourselves, to maintain ourselves together, and I wish we would not destroy it by putting too much pressure into it.
Maritime transport is a big polluter, and Europe's coastal security is continually challenged. So what role does digital innovation play in environmentally sustainable seas and critically secure coastlines?
We know that the maritime sector on EU level has a strong safety and security culture. Now we took the next step when it comes to the environmental aspect, pushing to further instill the environmental culture when it comes to the maritime transport. This is obviously related to decarbonization of the sector, it relates to the greenhouse gas emissions of the sector. We all know the political challenges in relation to this sector. And also then the future, that is digitalization.
It's a whole package, it really is. And the most important thing is that we will dramatically increase both transparency and accountability of the EU external fishing fleet. So we can definitely say now that we're taking this international responsibility of raising the standards globally.
It was the Council's conclusions on the 8th of June, especially with two objectives, the decarbonization and digitalization. We need to improve the sector in a transversal way so that we can put the blue economy at the service of people, citizens.
Europe's fish stocks have faced dark days. Overfishing has risked exhausting many species. To combat the risk of exploitation, the Maltese Presidency has advanced the protection of Europe's fish supply, a key source of protein across the continent.
35% of the fish stocks in the world are overexploited. a lot of them are at the limit of maximum limit of exploitation, and only a few are underexploited. So if you want to leave these resources, these wild resources, and you have to look to fisheries as the last activity of the human society that still exploits wild animals, we have really to do better governance, but at a global scale.
This is our attempt. We can only provide good legislation in the EU, and then we can start trying to influence the other main actors, and that's of course what we do at the UN level. So here we're showing leadership by raising our own standards.
Member states have recognized that when it comes to the sea, Europe cannot risk replicating environmental mistakes made on land. Maritime governance has therefore been at the front of Malta's maritime agenda. Integrated maritime cooperation and regulation has been developed to ensure the EU is now leading global maritime governance.
Some good steps were made over the last years in some dimensions of fishery policy, especially when dealing with transparency, the registers, and the management of the fish stocks, because we were having problems with several species being in trouble.
We know that there's a problem with illegally caught fish entering the EU market, and of course that's lowering our own standards. If we want high standards, high environmental standards, high social standards, well, you know, our fishing industry shouldn't be built on slave labor.
Columbus said, "By prevailing over all obstacles and distractions, one may unfailingly arrive at his chosen goal or destination." At the close of the Maltese Presidency, many obstacles and distractions have been overcome, but one thing is certain: Malta has set a clear course and has guided Europe towards a safe harbour. That's all for this series of the Maltese Presidency. To catch up on the key policy priorities enacted throughout the last 6 months, see the Presidency playlist. Thanks for watching.